Good morning, everyone. Our presentation today is entitled Insights from a Faculty Professional Development Program to Foster an Equity-Minded Student Success Culture in STEM. This is part of our NSF Equity Grant and this conference, of course. And our presenters today are me, Kieran Brewster, and I'll have everybody else say their name, so I'm not saying it for them.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tram Dang.
Hi, I'm Tim Tong.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jane.
Hello, everybody. I'm Furuzan. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Teresa.
So I want to give you a little bit of background on our NSF grant. So we're moving into our fourth cohort at this point. And so this has been running for a few years. And the background on our grant is that our SMC STEM program, which has been running for over a decade, has various student support practices designed to increase STEM enrollment and persistence. And it's seen a lot of successes down through the years. It's an amazing program, yet at the same time, we still experience lower than expected graduation rates and transfer rates, as well as low GPAs and high failure rates in math. And these success gaps were especially persistent for our Black and Latinx students. So our initial research showed that a sense of belonging with degree programs and majors is a factor that's highly related to degree outcomes for Black and Latinx students. So as we were designing our grant initially, that was an area that we had identified. We felt it was really important as well to include faculty and to center faculty in this particular grant initiative. There's a lot of research on the impact of faculty on student success. For instance, J. Luke Wood and Frank Harris III note that faculty ethos was the largest predictor of student success, and especially large research project that's been running now for many, many years by John Hattie. It was a meta-analysis of over 130,000 research studies found a teacher to be the largest determinant of student success among multiple factors. So the goals and outcomes of our grant were to work with SMC institutional research and grant evaluator to measure success in professional development activities, to foster and strengthen an equity-minded student success culture across STEM disciplines, develop culturally responsive strategies to increase sense of belonging and community for Black and Latinx students, increase the number of students completing STEM degrees, transferring to baccalaureate programs, and or entering the workforce. And finally, to reduce equity gaps in student success, especially Black and Latinx students.
Forgot to unmute. In response to our success gaps and in an effort to meet our goals and outcomes, we created a 2-year faculty development program aiming at fostering an equity-minded student success culture. So our process started, can you see my arrow? Great. So our process started with recruiting tenure track or recently tenured STEM faculty with the idea that new faculty were still in the process of developing their coursework and pedagogy, as well as with this idea that they'd be around longer to continue building upon their practices. That takes us into the first year of our professional development program, which involved faculty training to develop an equity-minded approach when critically evaluating their teaching and teaching practices. So how we did this was we paired our faculty participants with peers that we called coaches who were selected based on their history and involvement with various equity initiatives on our campus. In addition, since all of us are STEM faculty, we recognize the power imbalances that could be in place between the coaches and the participants. Many of us act as tenure committee members. And so what we did was we wanted to make sure that they received this message, this equity message from multiple places and not just from people in power. So we also had various consultants come in. We also sent our participants to different conferences, and we also had them engage in various courses. And one of my favorite things here is we also pulled back some of our students because it's really important to include the student voices if that's who we're trying to affect, right? And then finally, we also had our faculty participants engage in a meaningful reflection on their journey as they went through this process. So while they're going through their training, they also are being exposed to various literature-backed culture responsive strategies. These strategies are often presented by the coaches. Many of these strategies are listed here on the right here, okay. So faculty participants during this time are asked to focus on developing some of their own strategies or to create new ones. Our coaches help guide them through the process and continue to offer support through their second year. And their second year is when they basically implement their new practices. And then finally, since we follow a cohort model, we ask the previous cohorts to come back to share the new practices to the new cohort. So this is sort of how we continue bringing them back and continually developing and building upon previous ideas.
So while this is a continuing initiative and it's ongoing, we see some very encouraging results from our initiatives. They include narrowing of equity gaps for our Black and Latinx students, an increased sense of community in students, which was a predictor for student successful completion in a course, as well as increased engagement with culturally relevant andragogy. And so what we would like everybody in this room to do is in the chat, if you don't mind sharing a response to this particular prompt, which is what are equity-focused practices or strategies you have implemented in your work in the past few years? So if you wouldn't mind responding in the chat with some things that you've been doing over the last few years. And so we're just going to give a few minutes for you to respond. So we're seeing some responses coming in on grading, changing my grading policies completely and changing my language with students to be more caring, connecting students to study buddies, trying to improve a sense of class community in my online classes, including a more involved video introduction assignment, sending out a couple surveys in the semester to see how my students are doing in the class, more intrusive communication, alternative assignments, provide template to report to show students how to answer questions. In the classroom, I have been using flexible approaches to flexible office hours, exam retakes, changing grading policies, changing my syllabus, collaborating between our science division and other divisions on campus, culturally relevant pedagogy, trying to increasingly use more positive language, both in writing and in person, to help create a more welcoming atmosphere. Also trying to have classes to be more interactive and student-centered rather than previously mostly lecture intensive. Wow, these are all really, really great things that everybody's doing. Rolling deadlines, peer review workshops, quiz or survey participation, followed by peer dialogue to consider why they answered the way they did, plus resubmission opportunities to reconsider their responses or to expand. Okay, so this is great, and please continue to post responses in the chat. I'm seeing some more coming in. Increasing representation of scientists from diverse backgrounds through additional assignments like Scientist Spotlight. And so we're going to return to all of these later on in our presentation. But first, we wanted to hear from some of our grant participants, some of the faculty, our STEM faculty on our grant. We have Jing Liu from Earth Sciences. We have Firuzan Faridian from Physical Sciences, as well as her colleague, Tim Dong, who's also in Physical Sciences. So we're going to hear from Jing first of all.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Okay, well, we can stay here, and later I probably need to share my screen because I want to share with you what I implemented in my own Canvas. So, hello, everyone. My name's Jing, originally from China. So you can tell I'm speaking Chinglish, not English. So if at any point you didn't hear clearly or I pronounced something wrong, you feel confused, please let me know. Here I'm really humble because I'm not an expert in those research about all these equity practices. I just want to share with you my own journey, how I get there, find the best practice for my students in my class. I really want to re-emphasize two things. Kira, my colleague, he just mentioned belonging. The sense of belonging is really important for student success, and teacher play a huge role. So I see my own responsibility and to create this sense of belonging for my students, for all the students, regardless their background. So that is how I started. So first, I want to give you a sense about what I teach and their nature. So I'm in Earth Science. My field is geography. So I teach physical geography with lab. So that is basically the SMC Scholar program. So we have the collaboration with UCLA through this TAP, Transfer Alliance program. Well, basically what students learn is the Earth's natural cycles, the systems, powerful connections between hydrosphere, lithosphere, atmosphere, and biosphere. And the modality basically is hybrid. So basically, a student will study online throughout the week, and we have this in-person meeting, on-ground meeting on Wednesday. So we will focus on the lab portion. So they need to get their hands-on rocks, all these experiments. My expertise actually is in this field called GIS. So if you don't know what GIS is, it's Geographic Information Systems. So basically, we use computer to study Earth's surface, including physical geographic features and human geographic features and how they connect it. So basically making maps and also remote sensing like my background. And I also teach GIS applications. So basically it's a capstone class for our students to build their own GIS projects. Both of the GIS classes, they are online, they are remote, because we do have a lot of students, they are working professionals. I feel those online remote modality really works for them. So, but I totally feel for them, they want to see students they want to see me, the instructor. Some students also need me to hold hands to finish those labs. So I also have this scheduled meeting time every Monday and Tuesday evening. So that's basically is what I teach in this semester. Well, every semester similar, and basically I teach physical geography and GIS. Let's see. Okay, so this is my journey before I start sharing culturally relevant pedagogy. I want to share with you my journey, how I got there. So before I started, what I had known, should click this. What I had known is in SMC, we have a few workshops to educate faculty this difference between equity and equality. So my job is to support all my students. So I think many of you see this picture, what is equity, what is equality, so you can see the difference. So basically in this equity, we need to provide different support to different students. We know this sense of belonging, right? It's like a box, but different students need different help. So, but what I didn't know is how different students experience my class. Do they feel belong or no? I don't know. And how can I cultivate a sense of belonging for all the students? You know, I also reflect on my own background. I'm an Asian woman and I grew up in Asian culture. I don't understand, you know, our Latinx students. I don't understand our Black, brown students. I don't understand other students. You know, they also generation, the age. I'm in my 30s, they're in their, you know, early 20s. So a lot of things I don't know. And do I really understand my student perspective and amplify their viewpoint? I don't know. And am I allowing stereotypical assumptions? You know, I sometimes assume a student is a good student. Some student is a not good student. That's totally wrong. I always say this class, we don't tolerate stereotypes, but many times when I grade, I reflect on myself, I blindly assume many things. So that is what I didn't know before I started journey, and also what I learned through this journey. So here, just a shout out for this video on YouTube from Carl Learning about this microaggression in the classroom. You know, and intentionally, I actually reflected. I actually have some. Feel ashamed at that point. I'm sorry for my students. So what is equity-minded teaching? So basically, I grabbed this from California Education Department. They have this definition. So basically, they include those curricular transformation. So you need to select in course content and teach in a way that is relevant to all the students and inclusive. So create this sense of belonging. And inclusive pedagogy, organizing coursework that is meaningful, transparent, and invites collaboration, you know, regardless the background, and provide timely support. And also interpersonal awareness, connecting students by understanding their own perspective and teach them to respect others. So this is a you know, harmony I want to see in the world, actually. And interpersonal awareness, adopting cultural humanity approach that constantly examine my own ideas, basically reflecting me, the teaching practice. So I know what it is, and through you heard that from Kiran and Tram, we have learned a lot. We have been exposed to many practices, but many of them actually won't work for my class. Based on the nature of my class, because I teach geography, And GIS, we have this tool to create these beautiful maps. I feel this one really could work. So I dig into this one, culturally relevant pedagogy. So what it is, it's a model basically focused on multiple aspects of student achievements and support students uphold their own culture identity. I grabbed this because I realized LA and our students, it's just so diverse. They have their own cultural identity. What if it would be wonderful if we could bring all these perspectives together, to create maps, to study our physical Earth, study our Mother Earth, and also to critique on the perspectives that challenge social equity. And they have three components. Learning and academic success. Of course, we need to make sure students succeed from our classes, and also developing students' cultural competence to assist students in developing positive ethnic and social identities, to feel proud of themselves, of their own culture, their own community, and also the critical consciousness and critique social inequalities. Okay, so let me show you this. And in this culturally relevant pedagogy, cultural difference of students really valued and treated as an asset, especially in my class. In every semester, especially in my GIS class, students create maps about different places on the, from different countries. And in physical geography, I asked them to share their favorite place on Earth. We collaboratively create this map about the world to highlight all the amazing features on the Earth that really get students into the contents I'm going to teach in the remaining of the semester. And diverse culture, of course, the background is valued as a guidance for them to finish those assignments. And all students are encouraged to become agents of social justice and academic equity. So every semester in my GIS class, we have this assignment to collect the voice from different communities in LA about redlining, how that still affect your own neighborhood, the environment. Later, I'm going to share with you that practice and imbalances in classroom based on race, culture, ethnicity, etc. mediated. So I see this really work for my class, and also many of the assignments I want to give the students for them to practice. So ultimately, it will improve academic equity and success for all the students. All right, so to implement it, I reflect and I realize my job is to keep students motivated to learn, to create assignments they want to do. They have something to say, something to do, and keep all the students engaged with course contents. When I teach, my course contents also reflect on that, and effectively achieve teaching and learning goals, of course, for all the students. Okay, well, for my field, GIS and physical geography, basically including all these: spatial thinking, data collection, spatial inquiry and analysis, and making maps, cartographic skills, and build and maintain a supportive learning community, so they support each other for all the students. All right, so here are the three examples I want to share with you. The first one is the air pollution in my neighborhood. Can I share my screen? All right, it should be screen number 2. Yeah, I have 2 screens in my office, so give me a second. Share, should be this one. Yes. So it's this one. It's an essay for my students, or you can say essay/lab because they need to collect information from online. So basically this is my physical geography class. You can see I clear my teaching goals, and this, let me make it a little bit larger. Oh, what's that? No. Okay, so here is the teaching goals. So basically is in this module, we learn air pollutants. So I want them to follow the instructions here. I break them into 3 tasks. So I also provide this template, essay template, because I see many of my students, they don't know, especially our Latinx, Black, brown students, they don't know what to get started. So I provide this template for them to fill. So basically in the first task, they are going to collect information to do the research using trustworthy sources, not just from AI, ChatGPT. So I give them those links. You can collect the data from EPA, from California ambient air quality standards, and to study the key air pollutants and their main sources, where they come from, and what the impacts are. And in task number 2, I asked them to watch this video to learn how to describe spatial patterns. And I incorporate this tool called Purple Air. It's a volunteer contributed map. You can see you can mount those devices on your own house, and to contribute to those air pollutants. Basically is the AQI PM 2.5 level in your area. But in geography, we want to describe the patterns. So I want them to learn how to describe and how to use those numbers to describe. So that is another teaching goal. And yeah, so this is the screenshot, and they are going to fill out this template to study their own neighborhood. So you can see here in task number 2, I asked them to describe the pattern. I asked them to use the knowledge they learned in the previous module, longitude and latitude, to let people know where you are, and how to estimate EPA 2.5 PM 2.5, and given the sources they collected in task number 1, and what kind of factors can impact on the air pollution level in their neighborhood, and to find the solutions. So you can see students basically will, zoom in. They're like detectives. They will zoom into their own community. For example, Santa Monica, for example, South Central. Why in this area, downtown LA, we have such higher level than the ocean, Santa Monica, Venice, those areas. They are going to study, they're going to answer, to explore. So I feel all the students have something to say because they live in LA. And the second one I want to share with you is this redlining maps. So this is my GIS class. I create this lab to guide students to read maps, to explore the redlining maps of Los Angeles. So let me share this one with you. You can open it at your site. Okay, and yeah. So basically, yes, I have these special questions. When they read a map, they need to know what they are going to explore and study area and the data and software and exercise instructions. So you can see I create this one, and same thing as the air pollution, the assignments, they are going to explore their own neighborhood. So I see, oh, in my neighborhood is a D level. It's hazardous. Okay, but this map is it's long time ago. It's an old map. It's an old map. But in the next assignment, this is the first lab. In the next assignment, I asked them to use this tool, GIS tool, to design a survey, to survey how people feel their neighborhood, how you feel your neighborhood, the environment. So you can see this is like a reflect on the old map. the HOG map created for LA is 1939 and the same map. And then I guide them to use ArcGIS Survey 123, this tool, to create a map, to create a survey with a map to study, to collect the voice from their own neighborhood, how they feel their neighborhood, how the environment look like, how people will describe when you're in that neighborhood. For example, every time I come back to Santa Monica, actually, I feel I'm back in heaven from anywhere in LA, especially when from those South Central, this, poor neighborhood. I'm sorry I use that word. Yeah, it's totally different. This directly related to this redlining map in 1939, created in 1939. So through those two assignments, students really, first, they have something to say, right? They have this map still impact on their own living environment. So they feel motivated to use GIS, to study, to do more, to cultivate, to be a an agent, to improve the social justice in the entire LA. So I feel through those culturally relevant pedagogy, my students really feel they're more engaged, feel belonging, and come back to my presentation. I really reach my goal, learning makes sure students learn and achieve academic success and improve their cultural competence and bring up improve their critical consciousness about this social inequality. So I think this really worked for them. It's a yes. So I keep implementing this in my class and I really see a difference. So I'm sorry I may take too much time, and let's pass to the next presenter, and we can talk more in the breakout room later. Thank you everyone.
Next we have Farouzan.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Farouzan Friedian, and I teach physics at Santa Monica College. So before I get started, I want to hear from you in the chat, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear physics? You're taking a physics class for the first time you took it, or you're going to take, what comes to your mind? The first word that comes to your mind, physics class. Please put it in the chat. Panic, math. F equals MA, all right. math. Smart, magic. Oh, you are, of course, Tran. Flying balls, cool. So, okay, so those who have said math, when you say math or physics, I want your feelings. Super hard. Force, acceleration, velocity. All right, Matthew. Some physics words in there. Confusing. Confusion. Scary for anyone? Anxiety. All right. Thank you. So yes, velocity and super scary. A lot of students who come to my classes also share the same feelings. And my job is to basically get rid of the scary part and bring on the magic that Tram talked about. And the issue is that there is a distance between these two. And in order to get there, physics is very structural and it builds upon itself. Imagine wanting to write poetry. Well, you need to start with the alphabet. So where do we have room for flexibility when a course has to build upon itself? So I would like to share with you today how I have implemented some flexible possibilities in my physics course, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so I would like to share with you basically where I have found little bits of flexibility that I can improve the experience of my students, specifically my Black and Latinx students. The picture that Jing shared earlier speaks volumes. So what is in my power? My instruction, what I can give my students in terms of enrichment, when I'm available for my students, the assessments, and deadlines for assignments, while keeping the ship going, right? Okay. So how do I do that? One of the ways that I have tried to do that is, in order to address the needs of the students, I want them to have flexibility in how and when they access the course material. I use flexibility in when to access a deeper understanding of the material. I use flexibility in grading of the quizzes to allow for learning for mastery. I put flexibility in deadlines and due dates of assignments and when they can reach me. So my course is a hybrid course. And even though the lectures are given in person, all of my lectures are recorded on Zoom. And the students have access to all of the recorded lectures on our course learning management system. And they can access it anytime they want. So the whole course, the same PowerPoint presentations that I have used in class are all recorded. And the lessons, all the derivations, everything is there already from day one on our course management system, which is Canvas for us. So they can watch the lecture videos on demand when it's convenient for them, and they can spend the amount of time that's appropriate for them to gain a better understanding of the material. Now, throughout my presentation, the comments that you will see in red in my slides are from my students' responses to surveys that I give them about the course in the middle and the end of the term. And we'll talk a little bit more about that too. But here is a comment. The lecture videos are very well done, and every assignment helps you learn and master the material much better. So here's a student response. Next is another student response, which is unfortunately very rampant in STEM courses, in physics courses. So this student shared, the students in the class are pretty friendly, but I sometimes feel imposter syndrome because I am bad with math and physics. And that's unfortunately a feeling that students share. And what can we do about it? What can I do as an instructor about it? So for me, I want to help the student to get rid of that feeling of I am bad. What does that mean? You just haven't been exposed enough. Okay, so how can I provide that exposure without them being exposed that they don't feel confident? So one way that I have found is to try to search for resources, go to conferences, and make those resources available to my students. So for me, flexibility in when to access a deeper understanding of the material can come from gaining confidence in a safe way. So how can that happen? I embed links to appropriate physics simulations in each of my, basically, as many lessons that I can in the Canvas shell for my class. So during the pandemic, a wealth of physics simulations were created by various physicists around the country. And Using them gives students the ability to interact with alternate ways of seeing the material in order to gain more confidence and a deeper understanding. It's like an embedded tutor. So students can gain confidence basically by manipulating parameters. And it doesn't matter, like they can go to all extremes, change the temperature to whatever they want, etc., and actually see what the results would be. They would manipulate the parameters, observe the results in simulations that they can perform on their own computers at home in a low-stakes environment. When I say computers at home, by the way, I have to say, having gone through the training of teaching men of color, the first thing I do day one, I ask, how are you accessing the course? Do you have access to a computer? Do you have access to, how are you reaching that? And then our college campus provides help for students for those who do not have access to a computer to attain one. In making these simulations available to students, basically, they have the flexibility to enrich their knowledge with effective tools at a time that's convenient for them. So this increases their knowledge and confidence and decreases the imposter syndrome that many of our Black, Latinx, and minoritized STEM students experience. So this does not have a grade associated with it, but they do use it. So that's one thing for me to see that this is working. Also, here's a comment from a student in one of my classes. Let me go back. Absolutely love the abundance of resources available to improve our understanding. So at least that seems to be working. Next, another thing that I'd like to do is basically the quizzes. So one of the things that we have in our classes in physics, it matters that they understand really the content, and for that, of course, we have assessments, right? Now, the way that I have put some flexibility and a way to decrease their imposter syndrome basically is by flexibility in the grading of the quizzes to allow for learning for mastery. So how have I done that? This can be done by allowing students to turn in an assignment, let's say quiz, and then learn from their mistakes and demonstrate their learning by retaking the quiz over for mastery. So in my class, I do this with an upper limit, though, I should say that. So I let them take a quiz twice. The quizzes are low stakes, they're online, and they can take it. The first time is physics problems that they have to solve. Separately, they have to turn in the work for the, how they have set it up, how they have solved it. They sent that separately. The quiz is graded. They get it back with comments, and they can take it a second time with different numbers. It's the same types of questions with different numbers, and they can take it again. So the grade of the quiz is the best of the two. And because I can see both grades, for the majority of the time, the second grade is better than the first. So this makes this strategy measurable. The total number of, the percentage of the quizzes for my course is 15%. So it's totally worth it. To give that flexibility, they learn a lot. Having been in that situation of a quiz, somehow it amplifies, the learning through the quiz. So seeing their own scores improve basically boosts their confidence also in the knowledge of the material. So here is a sample of the quiz. You can see that they have, this one had 3 attempts. There's no time limit what they're taking the quiz. Then they may, usually they have 2 attempts. The reason this one had 3 attempts was there was a glitch for this particular one. But only the highest score will go to the grade book. And basically, here's a comment from a student. The assignments were also fair. The self-check quizzes were nice. So for all of the elements that I use in my class, I try to basically get feedback from my students so that they can, so that I can change things if need be. In terms of student hours and when we can connect with each other. So my courses, I am on campus on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So my student hours are right after one of my classes and before the other, and then in the afternoon. I also have a day where none of us are on campus, online, and then they can email me anytime and I respond within 24 hours. So that's how I connect in terms of flexible student hours. I do also, in my surveys that I ask them at the beginning of the course, middle of the course also, I ask them, are these hours working for you? And if someone says no, I'll make time for that student at a time that would be mutually effective for both of us. All of these things are going into what also Jing mentioned. The big umbrella here is creating a sense of belonging, really, for our students. So they feel that their voice matters and this is their class. In order to amplify that also, let's take a look at flexible deadlines. As I mentioned earlier, physics is it's like an alphabet, so you cannot skip M or N or O. It has to build upon itself. So how can you be flexible with deadlines? In the big picture of this is giving the students the ability to turn in material over time. Of course, my modules are opened ahead of time, a week earlier, and students have the opportunity to start working on the material basically at a pace that suits their needs and schedules. But in terms of late work, it happens. And this is it from my syllabus. And in terms of late work, I explained that it is important to stay current with the assignments because of the nature of the class. But I do add language that shows flexibility also. So, for example, I say, I do understand that, let's see, I do understand that each of you might find yourself in a bind from time to time. Please let me know as soon as possible about your particular situation, and I will extend the deadline. In order to account for unforeseen circumstances, the lowest lab quiz homework grade will be dropped. So these are like scaffolding policies that try to address issues before they happen. So at least there's that little flexibility there that those are going to be, you have, those would be dropped, no worries. And then I do mention, I am here for you and I want you to succeed. Please strive to finish assignments before or on the deadline. This is to ensure your success and ensure fairness. However, if there are situations that prevent you from occasionally completing an assignment on time, please contact me. So what I have actually done is I've added another part which I tell them in class, and that is, okay, let's say our first exam is on the first 3 modules of the course. You can turn in anything from those 3 modules by the time of the exam. In fact, even after that, they can turn it in. And there is no, they can get full credit for things, except that I have a conversation with them. I'm saying, you're behind on 2 homeworks. If this is going to add up, we're having another exam. Is there anything I can help you with? Come and let's talk about what are the issues that you're having. Sometimes they're so close, but they don't know how close they are. And having that conversation really helps. Putting that scaffolding there also helps. I feel like before I had it completely open till the end of the semester, and there were 3 students perhaps out of 28 that struggled with that. So this is now here to prevent that from happening too, so that we catch things earlier, and we get that conversation going earlier. So here is a student comment. I really love this course because the professor is very understanding and lenient about the dates and assignments. And here's another one. Although my life schedule makes this class harder for me, the professor made it so that people that are in similar situations as myself won't be forced to drop the class due to us not completing homework. And this was from a Latinx student. So basically, if we take a look now at the results, this is one of the surveys that I give to my students. This is in the middle of the term. So here are some results from a survey that I asked my students about the different elements of the course in order to be able to change things for the rest of the semester. The dark orange represents strongly agree, orange is agree, light blue is disagree, and dark blue is strongly disagree. I asked them about the syllabus, interactions with me, the assignment due dates flexibility, the information to prepare for exams. Do they feel that they have sufficient information? Do they feel a sense of belonging? Do they feel that they're part of the class community? What about the pace of the class during the first 8 weeks? Do they have enough information about upcoming assignments? So this is their class. The class is for my students. I want to hear from them how it's working for them. And then this is some of the things that my students have said. Interactions between students and the professors were one of their favorite things. I love doing the labs in small groups. I didn't feel any pressure when talking to the professor. Another one, that your main concern was for us to understand the material and succeed, even if that meant occasionally turning in assignments late. So a little bit of flexibility goes a long way. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And I will pass the baton to my colleague, Dr. Timothy Dunn.
Thanks, Ruzan. All right. Hi, my name is Tim, and today I'll talk about implementing the scientist's spotlight equity practice in an organic chemistry course. And so I teach both general chemistry, sort of the nursing chemistry and organic chemistry, but recently I've been mainly teaching OChem classes, and I wanted to try implementing this practice there. All right, why representation in chemistry is important. So here's a quote I found in this article written in 2022. The two authors write, textbooks are an important aspect of students' school lives, and the representation of scientists in textbooks is a proxy for the representation of who can do science. And their study is listed at the bottom. They were studying representations of women and men in popular chemistry textbooks. I believe it was like maybe the middle school and high school level in the UK and Republic of Ireland. But I take this quote to be sort of general, right? Our students, they get a lot from the textbook, and one thing they get out is who does science. And so if I think about my organic chemistry course, there's something we call name reactions in organic chemistry, where if a faculty member and their students develop a new reaction, the other chemists will sort of name the reaction after them. So here are some of the most famous name reactions that OChem students learn in their first year of OChem. The Diels-Alder reaction, named after Otto Diels from Germany and Kurt Alder from Poland. The Michael reaction, named after Arthur Michael, a US chemist. Robinson annihilation, named after the giant of organic chemistry, Sir Robert Robinson. And then Arthur Birch, the Birch reduction, chemist from Australia. And I got these pictures from Wikipedia, but I could ask you what sort of common thread runs behind these famous chemists. And it's not just that the pictures are black and white. These chemists happen to be white. And that's just historically the way organic chemistry was. The center of OChem for many years was sort of Germany and the European countries, and then sort of it's branched out eventually to the US. But if you look at who does organic chemistry today, it doesn't look like this. These are chemists from the 1800s and 1900s. And as you all know, many of the things we teach in our general chemistry, introductory science courses are the science from the 1800s and 1900s, right? This is the bread and butter and the foundations. And so unfortunately, there aren't many quote unquote name reactions that I get to teach my students that involve people that don't look like white males, just because back then there weren't many people other than white males doing organic chemistry, getting published. And so through the participation in the equity program here at SMC, I was exposed to the idea of the scientist spotlight assignment. And it's called that because you're shining a spotlight on someone that otherwise might not have gotten attention. And so let me go to the next slide. So I subscribe as a member of the American Chemical Society. You get a subscription to Chemical and Engineering News, which is a weekly chemistry magazine for chemists. And one thing CNEN News does is they put together the Talented 12. So every year they solicit nominations for scientists under the age of, I think, something like 42, who are early career chemists, either in industry or in academia, so pre-tenure chemists. And they solicit nominations and they have their own selection process. But what I've noticed is the Talented 12 is, pretty diverse. And so, and the biographies that they write, the CNE News writers writes for each of these chemists, is actually really informative, well-written, fun to read, talks about the chemistry, talks also about the background of the chemist. And so here's an example of the 2022 Talented 12. And, below I added in sort of a little blurb of what they work on. And so I have a document where I have all these things written, and students can basically select which chemist they want to look at. So I think currently in the document I have for students, I think I have 2022, 2021, and eventually I'll try to get more years in there. But right now there's 30-something chemists they can choose from. And as you can see, just from this picture, they span, different races, ethnicities, genders, yeah. And so there's a wide variety of people here represented. And I asked the students, just choose somebody that you want for whatever reason and, read the CNE article related to them. So the idea of celebrating contributions of chemists of diverse backgrounds is to provide a role model because unfortunately in our OChem curriculum, like I mentioned, a lot of the science is from 100 to 200 years ago. And so there's not a lot of representation there in the name reactions. And if they can see scientists that maybe they resonate with, looking like them or having backgrounds like them, that might inspire them to, I can do it too. And then also creating a sense of belonging, because there might not be many students of their particular ethnicity or background in the class, but if they find someone who's, made it or on their way to making it, that might encourage them on their own journey and help them at least get through my class and hopefully encourage them to get through the other classes that they encounter in the future. And so I've implemented this 3 times now, in spring 2023 with my first semester OChem class, in this past summer, which was a 6-week intensive course, second semester OChem, and I'm currently doing it as well in my second semester OChem class that's currently in progress. In the first time I implemented it, I was dipping my toe in the water, and so I asked them to do the assignment 1 time. Summer as well, just 1 time. This fall, more intentionally, I've asked them to do it 4 times, sort of spaced throughout the semester. At this point, this is an assignment that students don't really, they don't go to the front of the class and present. They're mainly writing a short reflection that they send to me. And I don't really spend much class time discussing what they've read in Scientist Spotlight, even though that might be a way to sort of grow the practice in the future of giving students time to share sort of with their classmates what they're getting out of it. But currently, they read the CNE article, the chemist they choose, they answer a short reflection question, they send it to me. In the past, I've made it extra credit, but currently I'm making it maybe like 2 points per assignment, which turns out to be, after 4 scientist spotlights, 3% of their overall course grade. So it's not high stakes, and it doesn't take them a lot of time. But students report they get a lot out of it. So let me show you that on future slides. And so here's, for example, this year's Talented 12. And again, I just take screenshots. So basically, I'm a subscriber. So I download the PDF, I take screenshots of the images, I put together a little description on the bottom, and I put it in one place so the students can, at a glance, just see everybody. And then once they identify the chemist they want to do, I have a Google Drive folder with all the CNE articles that I've downloaded, with the file name being the chemist name, and they can access it there. Maybe there are some, copyright issues here, but because I'm just sharing it with my own students, I think this falls under fair use. But unfortunately, if a student wanted to, let's say, access the article themselves directly, I think you get like 3 free articles per time period, but eventually you have to subscribe. So currently, I'm sort of curating my own collection of these articles and sending it to my students via LMS so that there's no copyright issues. And thankfully, it looks like, for example, they're soliciting nominations for 2024. And if they keep doing 12 people every year, soon we'll have a collection of, a really large collection of scientists to choose from. All right. And also, CNE News publishes a Priestley Medal biography. The Priestley Medal is the highest award awarded by the American Chemical Society, and it's sort of a lifetime achievement award. And so those biographies maybe are 10 pages long, but they're incredibly well written because they go into the chemist's background, what inspired them. And so I also have been curating Priestley Medal biographies. And here are the 4 I've curated so far. And then I put it in a Google Drive, and they can, get access to it that way. Here's the prompt that I give students for the assignment. Name of the chemist you selected, what subfield of chemistry do they specialize in? Because it's not necessarily organic chemistry, it's all fields of chemistry. What impact does their work have on our daily life? And then 4, is there anything you learned about them that encourages you on your own journey? Please share that here. They write this reflection, they send it to me, and here are some sample responses. I tried to group them in some of the major categories. One is finding the chemistry interesting. Another thing they often write is they resonate with this scientist background. For example, this student here said that this chemist they chose came from Egypt, which is very close to the country they immigrated from, and that inspired them. One student commented that they chose a female scientist, and it's really encouraging to see really successful women in STEM. I'll read this student's quote because it's really interesting. I wish I knew more about women like A Young, that's the chemist she chose, when I was younger. I knew that I was just as smart as my male friends, but most of my math and science teachers were men, and so were 99% of the sciences we learned about in class. So I think I would have found it encouraging to hear about professionally successful women making important contributions to science. And I think that represents why we shine a spotlight, because there are more and more, for example, women doing science, but you might not be able to tell that just from the name reactions covered in a first-year organic chemistry course. Another category is inspired by the practical applications of the science. And so Kate Levy is one of the scientists behind the Impossible Burger, I think the vegan meat substitute burger. And so this student wrote that seeing that people are working on problems, scientific problems, gives them hope. And then another category is relating to struggle. So one student was dealing with sort of health conditions, and they resonated with one of the scientists they read about. And then one student wrote about reading about the scientists having imposter syndrome was something that I related to, because there have always been those moments of self-doubt in my academic career. And so these CNE news articles are pretty well written. There may be 2 pages, so they're not long reads, but they do interview the scientists, and sometimes the scientists just share very honestly about the struggle they had to get to where they are. And so at the end of the semester, I give them a survey. And so here are some sample responses for the summer cohort of students. So I asked them, what did you get out of doing the Scientist Spotlight assignment? Do you think it was a worthwhile assignment to work on? Do you think future classes would benefit from that assignment too? And all the responses are pretty positive, but here's the representative sampling, and then the emphasis is my own. So one student wrote, "It's an amazing way to see diversity in science." 10 out of 10 always assign these. I think to be transparent, for the summer class, this was an extra credit assignment. So they might be saying always assign these because they like the extra credit. All right. Number 2, another representative thought, learning about organic chemistry applications motivates me to learn more instead of thinking I'm wasting my time learning about something I'll never use. And that's pretty cool. These talented 12 are chosen precisely because their work is, quote unquote, groundbreaking and exciting. So they can see the potential application of OChem and other chemistry disciplines. I liked it a lot. It inspired me as someone who's pursuing science. Low stress. It is indeed low stress. If the article takes like 5 to 10 minutes to read, the reflection could be written in 5 minutes. So it's like 15 minutes to finish the assignment. I think it's a great way to gain exposure to the various ways one could channel an interest of chemistry into a career. And then the articles themselves are neat and tidy. They invite further reading. And so if a student's really interested, this is the platform for them to jump off of. When I first learned about the Scientist Spotlight assignment, there is a site called the Scientist Spotlights Initiative, and here's their website at the bottom. I did try that first, and I encourage you to check out this resource yourself too. The problem I ran into for the Scientist Spotlight Initiative was that it's often written by students. I think maybe middle school. It's used in elementary school, middle school, high school. And so sometimes teachers assign students to write biographies, and then they post it to the Scientist Spotlight website. And for that reason, it's a little bit hit and miss. Some of the articles are things I would assign to my students, and some of them are maybe not to the level I would want to share. It also requires a login to access. And so I thought it'd be easier if I curated CNE news articles and then just put it behind a Google Drive, privately shared with my own class. But there is the Scientist Spotlight Initiative that covers a wide variety of disciplines and has a lot of people to choose from. So I encourage you to consider that as an option. But for the reasons I just shared, I decided to use the articles from CNE and News. Now, I know that if you're not in chemistry, then yeah, getting biographies from CNEN won't work. But maybe there's a similar professional magazine that you might consider that has biographies for your field. And then for my personal reflections, I find myself really busy managing my course, and I wanted to choose an equity practice that would sort of be sustainable. And I did find the Scientist Spotlight to be a very sustainable thing to do, because curating the articles and then grading is pretty quick for reading their reflections. And their reflections are actually pretty fun to read. To be honest, joining the equity program, equity is something I have difficult talking about in class in a natural way. But in talking about equity in the context of the more people we have doing science, the better, I think that resonates with everyone in the class. And I'm definitely very comfortable, reaffirming that idea. And that's why I tell them we're doing the Scientist Spotlight, because I want to see that they have a place in organic chemistry, they have a place in doing science. And the other, in addition to the equity aspect, the research topics that they get exposed to are just cutting edge. And so they jump from 1800s chemistry to 2023 state of the art in a very sort of accessible way. Some students gravitated toward the applications of the work, so that maybe they like the science. Others gravitated toward the biographical nature of the chemists that was relatable. So basically, there's something for everyone. And I think that's why everyone seemed to respond positively to the assignment. And the hard part was sort of finding a way to get articles. But like I mentioned, the solution I found was as a subscriber and curating the articles myself and sharing it with them, not publicly on the internet, but through the course management system and Google Drive. That's a solution I found to sort of distributing the articles easily. And here are some additional sources of biographies you might consider. So there's the Talented 12. You can just Google Talented 12 and it'll pop up. Here are some profiles of early career chemists. Here are some LGBTQ trailblazers. And then here is a CNE News 6 Black chemists you should know that they put together. And I think that's my last slide. Yeah. So, and I'll pass it back to Tram and Karen.
Thank you so much. And Faruzan, Jing, and Tim, it's just been a real joy to watch your equity journey and evolution. So thank you so much for your presentations. For the last few minutes that we have together, so we're going to spend about 10 minutes in breakout rooms. And we want you to reflect on some of those equity practices that you mentioned earlier in the chat. So for anybody who arrived a little bit late, I encourage you all to mention some equity practices that you've implemented over the last few years. And one of the things that Tim mentioned was that oftentimes, depending on where we're at in our journey, it can be really hard to be able to talk about some equity stuff in a very authentic way. And one of the things we encourage for our participants is to do this work authentically wherever you're at. And so part of that journey is being intentional and thinking more deeply about the practices that we're already doing. And so as Jing mentioned, she didn't come in as a blank slate. She was already doing some of these practices. But what this initiative allowed her to do was to think a little bit more deeply about the particular practices and how she implemented those practices. So as we go into our breakout rooms, we're going to be joining you, myself and my co-PI, Tram, as well as Faruzan, Jing, and Tim. And these are some of the things to think about, or some prompts that we have for you, is to think about your equity practice through the lens of its purpose. How does the practice create a learning and social environment that's not just inclusive, but designed around the experiences of Black and Latinx students? Also thinking about with your practices, who can be positively impacted, as well as who can be negatively impacted. Also thinking about the racial equity component. How does the practice account for specific barriers Black and Latinx students experience in the classroom? And then finally, cultural humility. How does the practice take into account your positionality and privileges? And how does it diminish the power dynamics that exist in the classroom space? So we're going to give about 10 minutes to that. And we should be making breakout rooms, and you should be seeing those prompts come up.
So I've listed the rooms with the names of all of us here. Feel free to join whichever room you feel most comfortable or you're most wishing to be in, except, the presenters, we're all going to our own room names.
I had made them, but then when you did this, it canceled them.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Same here.
Yep. We are not alone.
How are the conversations?
Wonderful, short.
I know I was.
So maybe we can just share our final slide, which is acknowledgements, and then we can open up for Q&A or feedback from your breakout rooms. And so just some people we would like to thank: Dr. Melanie Bocanegra, Dr. Edna Chavari, and Laurie McCabe-Henniger for the early work on our grant. Tim Nguyen, who is our grant evaluator and research collaborator, and the SMC Equity Pathways and Inclusion Division, and of course NSF for sponsoring our grant.